where silence lives. Deep inside, the truth begins. Every line, every move, shaped by fire, shaped by you. We don't rush, we don't break. Every step is calculated. Feel the flow, feel the rise. This is more than just design. When the pressure's getting high, we don't bend, we realign. Precision in every touch. This is strength refined as trust. In the dark, where silence lives, deep inside, the truth begins.
Hello everyone, it's Friday and I'm Dr. Emre Övsay, endodontist, R&D specialist and creator of Rising. In every webinar, we are increasing our gear and we are giving you more details about the Rising file. Today, we will talk about the power of Rising ecosystem, precision, balance, and performance. Rising is not just a file system. I'm here to challenge the way we think about shaping. Because what if I told you shaping is not about just cutting more? It's about understanding the anatomy better. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rising, a system designed not to dominate the canal, but to respect the canal anatomy and have the best shaping procedure. To introduce you and give some information about myself, I'm a lecturer, I'm an R&D specialist, I'm a faculty member, I'm a researcher, I'm the key opinion leader of Fanta Dental, and always proud to be the part of Stile Italiano Endodontics, the best endodontic group in the world. When we talk about Rising is not just a system. As a clinician, I face real anatomical challenges every day. As a researcher, I question everything we think and we know. And as an R&D specialist, I don't accept limitations. I redesign them. So Rising with Fanta Dental Global and me is the result of that mindset. Rising concept is little different from the other rotary file systems. It's not just a name, it's a philosophy. It represents evaluation of percussion, control of clinical intelligence. Because in modern endodontics, success don't come from the force. It comes from the harmony between the instrument and the anatomy. And this is the place where Rising meets the revolution. When we criticize ourselves, we see that our technology is developing every day and endodontics is evolving globally. But to be honest, many systems are still trying to solve yesterday's problems. Rising was designed for today's reality: complex anatomy, calcified canals, and minimally invasive expectations. Rising is a system that changes everything. But not for Rising, for the other products of Fanta Dental Global, which we work always together to improve the quality of our products, are like an ecosystem. So it's not just about the file, it's how you create the ecosystem is very important in endodontic field. Me with Dr. Atal had many lectures in 2025 and 2026. We're still giving lectures at the universities about the Rising file. I'm proud to say that she's the head of my research team with Rising file. So we give many lectures. We introduce Rising to students coming from the other fields of Turkey, coming to Istanbul to our faculty. So they love the Rising system so much, and they told us that they feel comfortable when they use Rising in clinical conditions. For us, teaching is not about transferring just the knowledge. It's about changing the perspective of people's lives. When clinicians understand why they shape, not just how, everything changes. So that's exactly what we do with the Rising in our trainings. So we will be also lecturing in the IDAX with the Re-Engineering Clinical Excellence with Dr. Atau. In 17th of April, we will show new cases and new applications with the Rising file. So if you are coming to Istanbul for the IDAX, I'm waiting you for the lecture. Let's see how to open a calcified orifice with our orifice shaper. You just apply a little pressure for the RR to find the calcified orifice. Ladies and gentlemen, because it's Rising. And when we published the video, we had many views, so everyone texts us questions how to use the RR in calcified orifices. And we're always happy to be answering your questions. Me and my team in Fanta Dental Global, we are always open-minded for you to give you all answers for your questions. One canal will be shaped with the whole sequence, and the other canal will be just shaped with Rising file as a single file system. .450 speed and 2.5 torque. This is our glide path file. After the orifice shaper, we go through the R1. We start shaping through the working length. We irrigate. Then this is our first shaper file, R2. We go through the working length. We all know that we have a special application that we create an apical tugback. We irrigate. Then we go through with R3 and R4. I mentioned before in the webinars why R4 is a very different file. Now this is the R4. We irrigate. We use Rising special gutta percha. We just insert into the root canal and you see it's perfectly cone fit. Now this is the second canal, which we will use the single file technique. Then we try our Guttapercha, the perfect confit. On both canals we are done. We don't have to modify our Guttapercha and waste time for our clinical practice. Rising is a system that changes everything. We all know that because Rising is a different system. So Rising is forcing the limits in the endodontic field. So no root canals are the same. So we don't expect one rigid system to solve and to work for all conditions. Rising is designed for variability. It's not a standardized root canal instrument. It's a complete experience with me and Fanta Dental Global to create you a best system for your clinical practice. Not just for Rising, let's go deeper with the microscopic endodontics. So when we talk about Rising, we cannot do root canals without magnification. So we need to operate the patients under microscopic endodontic practice. Also, we can see the details about our file system while we are operating the root canals. So microscope is a very important part for endodontic practice. Modern endodontic is microscopic. So why we are still using instruments designed macroscopically? Rising aligns with what we actually see under magnification. And when we see, we can feel and we can work better with microscope. To mention the microscope, let me show you our latest microscope, MCS 3000A, which is a lightweight microscope with the lightest chassis compared to its competitors. In my daily practice, I'm using our microscope very effectively on recording videos and showing for educational purposes. With Sony X-Image sensor, our microscope is showing every detail, every percussion, and every quality of videos in your daily practice. Rising is the percussion that shapes the universe of endodontics. We all know that because it's the unique way of making your root canals even better and better with the Rising system. Our colleagues from all over the world texting us messages, still asking the details about the Rising file. We are giving them the expressions and the details, and they were very happy that they started using Rising file and they cannot get rid of this. Everyone liked Rising so much. So when we started talking about the Rising file, we should go deeper into the metallurgy. Every nitide file transforms. But not every transformation is intelligent. Look at the other endodontic files you experienced before. Rising responds to both heat and stress simultaneously. The changeable state of nickel titanium that has never done before. That means flexibility when you need safety, cutting efficiency when you need performance. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Rising is the changeable state of nickel titanium that has never done before. It can change from austenite to martensite with engine-driven structural transformation. The state of nickel titanium is changing inside the root canal, so the file can adapt your clinical practice easily. With the ProWire, not just a material, it's just a behavior. It doesn't react in one direction. It adapts dynamically to clinical conditions. That's where true control begins. So we can adapt your clinical case easily, just one file system with Rising. Me and Fanta Dental Global work very hard to develop this new nickel titanium called ProWire. It's developed by me and Fanta Dental, forged in Percussion and perfected in Revolution. It's not just an alloy, it's a controlled response system and mechanism. Most files react. ProWire adapts the root canals, and that difference changes everything in clinical behavior. Let me simplify something very complex. We are not just dealing with the metal. We are dealing with phase behavior under clinical stress. And that's where the intelligence of the nickel titanium begins. That's how the idea of ProWire started like that. Every NiTi file transforms between phases. But here is the problem. Most systems depend on a single trigger, temperature or stress. ProWire doesn't choose one. It uses both simultaneously, so it understands how to change the phase of the nickel titanium file while transforming inside the root canal. So it can change from martensite to austenite, and this transformation makes your clinical cases even better and better, more easy to adapt the root canal anatomy. So if this doesn't happen for endodontic file, this is where conventional systems fail. They behave predictably in the lab conditions, but unpredictably in the root canals. Because real canals don't follow the textbook rules. You need a more intelligent file to fight with your cases in clinical conditions. In endodontics, loss of control is the beginning of complications. Transportation, ledging, file separation. What we need is not more force. We need controlled adaptability. We need to equalize the balance between the cutting efficiency, the adaptability, and the ProWire together to get a balanced ecosystem inside the root canal. We criticized Rising with many competitors about the adaptive NiTi with ProWire to conventional nickel titanium with the alloy technology, with flexibility, with cyclic fatigue resistance, and with canal centering ability. Our researchers are coming on the way, and we are always showing you the evidence-based examples of these comparisons. And as you see here, ProWire is much more flexible, much more stronger, and can center the root canal much more easier compared to other file systems. We compared Fanta Rising with one of the most important competitors like Race Evo. Fanta Rising demonstrated significantly higher cyclic fatigue, both in room temperature and with body temperature. So the file can meet the curvature and can adapt the stressful conditions without any hesitation. And provider shifts towards the performance to Martin's side, to more flexible, to more safer, to shape the root canals very easily.
They say you know when you know, so let's face it. You had me at hello. Hesitation never helps. How could this be anything else? Well, all I dream of is your eyes. All I long for is your touch. And darling, something tells me that's enough. You can say that I'm a fool, and I don't know very much, but I think they call this love. One smile, one kiss, two lonely hearts is all that it takes now, baby. You're on my mind every night, every day. Good vibrations getting loud. How could this be anything else? When all I dream of is your eyes, all I long for is your touch. And darling, something tells me that's enough. You can say that I'm a fool, and I don't know very much, but I think they call this love. Oh, I think they call this love. What could this be between you and me? All I dream of is your eyes. All I long for is your touch. And darling, something tells me it's enough. You can say that I'm a fool, and I don't know very much, but I think they call. Oh, I think they call. Yes, I think they call this love.
This is Provider and this is Rising. We do our work with passion. You see the competitors, you see the Rising, and I think there is nothing to say about the fracture resistance with the competitors. Rising is the highest level of nickel titanium that has never done before, with none of the companies can produce Provider. Let's talk about the apical transformation. We tested Rising with ProTaper Ultimate. What does this clinically mean for us? This means a lot. Less apical transportation is better performance inside the root canals. So we have safer apical progression when we use Rising compared to any other competitor file system. So we can say that in canal centering ability, in apical transportation, Rising is much more better compared to other competitors. You can see the centering ability of Rising, the eccentric motion of R2 inside the root canal. So, as we always talk about the Rising system, what makes Rising special? The adaptive night eye dynamics, the eccentric motion, minimally invasive treatment, advanced design. Cyclic fatigue is not just a material problem, it's a behavioral problem. And adaptive behavior increases resistance dramatically. So with Rising, you can explore deeper and you can shape smarter. Also, the clinical practice of Rising, you have the more improved outcomes, shorter treat time, less operative pain, and you have a reliable and logical, minimally invasive preparation. So we need to choose the Rising and we need to get other systems out which are traditional and useless for the clinical practice. With the ProWire, the adaptive night eye, the metallurgical synergy, improved tactile control, and the safety is important for us. So traditionally we had to choose efficiency or safety. With ProWire, that compromise disappears, and with Rising you can solve any cases in your clinical practice. And for the clinical impact, we can have safer shaping, lower fracture risk, higher cyclic fatigue resistance. So you can shape smarter with better performance. To remind you the details about the Rising, that Rising is a fixed taper and a variable cross-section instrument. And you need to use Rising not to enlarge too much and too much tapers for the root canals. You can see the removal of the pulp. And all images in my presentation are shot with my microscope Fanta MCS 3000A. Very quality videos. This is our glide path file. You can see that it's flexible outside the root canal, but it's stiffer inside while you are operating a calcified root canal surface.
Like broken stars that never fall, I learned that love needs more than sight. It needs a voice, it needs it all. I see you smiling far away, like nothing ever crossed your mind. But every word I didn't say is playing back on endless time. If I could turn one moment back, I'd scream your name.
Every great system is built on clarity, not complexity. Rising follows a simple principle: right file, right moment with the right behavior. And as you see, I use the e-heater to heat the solutions. It's the inside of the rising ecosystem. Then I place my gutta percha to get the perfect tuck back. Then I fill my root canals with the sealer. So it's powerful and it's rising. Let's see another case. This is the RR, our orifice shaper. When you use RR, everything becomes easier after that. Less resistance, less risk of file fracture. You can see the removal of debris from the coronal part. After you shape the coronal part, you get the mass of debris outside the root canal. Then you go with the R1. R1 is not just a glide path file, it's a decision-making tool while you are operating your root canals. A proper glide path is not about just reaching the apex, it's about preparing the root canal to accept shaping safely. As you see, R1 negotiates the root canal not aggressively but intelligently. With the Acta 1 Pro, our powerful ultrasonic activator, you can activate the root canals. and the eccentric movement of R2. R2 respects the original anatomy while achieving ideal anatomical shaping. Now you go with R3. Then you can just fill the root canals with specialized rising gutta percha. And you got the perfect tuck back. Yes, the apical tuck back is very important for us in our clinical practice. Let's come back to reality. When you shape the root canal with conventional systems, if you cannot reach the working length, or if you exceed the working length, you will have problems with the apical tuck back. Why we need rising? We don't want to waste time in clinical conditions to find the right gutta percha for the cone fit. We need to go through the working length to use the rising tuck back function. If you don't exceed the working length, your gutta percha will never exceed beyond the apex. Also your sealer. And this is amazing for a file system to control the apical balance of your clinical practice. Then if you shape the acrylic block, even it has an open apex, you get the perfect cone fit. Many systems promise efficiency. Some promise flexibility. Very few systems deliver both at the right moment. So, for best clinical cases, you need to have a rising file system to solve 99% of your cases at the clinical practice. As we always say in our webinars, we are unlocking more details about rising, and today I want to give you some information about the electro-polishing procedure of rising.
Polishing uses an electrolytic bath. The workpiece is submerged and current is applied. This smooths and brightens the metal.
I know most of the clinicians know about the electro-polishing procedure, but for rising files, we have a very different method to make the electro-polishing to increase the cutting efficiency of the file that has never done before. So we take the rising into many processes at the RMD to have the best cutting experience and the durability of ProWire. When you electro-polish the surface, you get a smoother, you get a lighter, and you have the best cutting experience. But don't forget that increasing something can affect the other possibilities of the material. So if you make electropolishing, you need to equalize the balance of the nickel titanium, not to lose another specialty of the file. So what rising makes is that everything is in balance, in ecosystem. In my eyes, I can see that rising is performing much more better compared to any other file systems. You can see the surface before the electropolishing, and you can see the smooth surface after the electropolishing procedure. So we can say that we increase the machinability of nickel titanium to a higher level, and we are above the standards of producing rotary files. Every case is complicated, and we need to stay minimally invasive. For complex morphology, we need to adapt the changes inside the root canal system. I know I mentioned before our files, but just to remind you that RR is our orifice shaper, R1 is our glide path file, R2 is our first shaper file, R3 and R4 for the large canals, and R4 is a little different intelligent file. Its number is 28.5 taper, which is an intermediate file, which is a magical file for your, especially for your premolar cases. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the rising system. You need to use rising with our R&D specifications with Fanta Dental Global with 450 speed and 2.5 torque. And for the single file lovers, we have the two file, the RR and R2. You can just shape the root canal easily than ever. If you want to go through the large canals, you can go with R3 and R4. And I believe you can mostly solve your cases with our first three files much more easier. You can see RR how smoothly operates inside the root canal. This is the eccentric movement of rising. This is the R4. Also, you can use AF Max 3, our Hurricane file, for irrigation and activation. Don't forget to use the specialized rising gutta-percha for the apical tuckback for the perfect cone fit. So we prepared you some charts for the rising file, for the easy canals, for the medium canals, for moderate canals, for hard cases, and for extreme curvatures. Because at the end of the day, we are not shaping the root canals, we are preserving natural anatomy, biology, and every detail for our clinical practice. So the question is not which file you use. The question is, do you control the root canal, or does the root canal control you while you're operating at your clinical practice? Rising is not just a file system. Rising is where clinically intelligence meets percussion. Thank you for today's webinar. I will give you more details in the next webinars on Fridays. I'm happy to be here with you. I'm Dr. Emre Övsay, endodontist, R&D specialist, creator of Rising, key opinion leader of Fanta Dental, and proud to be part of Stile Italiano Endodontics, the best endodontic group in the world. See you in next webinars and stay tuned.
In the dark where silence lives, deep inside the truth begins. Every line, every move, shaped by fire, shaped by you. We don't rush, we don't break, every step is calculated. Feel the flow, feel the rise, this is more than just design. When the pressure's getting high, we don't bend, we realign. Precision in every touch, this is strength.